we are Jihu and Esther, and we'll present about sustainability and health. I'm Jihu. I currently go to a school called Chadwick International School in South Korea, and I'm currently a rising senior. Some of my extracurricular activities are the leader and founder of the CI Biology Research Club, and also the leader of DMZ College Club, and I'm also the captain of CI Cross Country Varsity. Currently, I'm interested in biomedical engineering, genetics, and biochemistry, and I plan to take these courses in the future.
Hello, I'm Seyon Chung, and I'm also a rising senior in Chadwick International in South Korea. I have a big passion for biology and chemistry, being part of several conferences, research, and intern opportunities, and I aspire to work in the medical field. In my time, I enjoy watching and creating films and creating the violin as well. In the future, I envision being part of creating more accessible medical care around the world. So we'll be talking about these 4 main points. And first, sustainability and global health. As Dr. Tom Quinn mentioned, climate change is the root cause of health inequities, and it is the biggest global health threat of 21st century. Not only is climate change responsible for extreme weather and natural disasters, but it is also the root cause of the increasing pollution and reduced productivity. Even more, its indirect effects are even more deadly, such as decreased crop yields, overwhelmed water system, hospitals shutting down, and etc. And climate change, the root cause of global change, is most notable through the changes of the environment because of its vulnerability and its direct effect. Also, it can be slowed down by preserving the environment, and sustainability is key to preserving our environment, a step closer to achieving global health.
To give a brief introduction to our research, the DMZ is an area created in the July of 1953 as the result of the Korean War, and military forces were placed in this area to prevent any civilian activity within the DMZ, leading to the richness of the habitat. The CCC is an area near the DMZ where civilian activity is controlled, and this is where our data was collected. Our topic of investigation was the effect of different environmental factors on aquatic Coleoptera diversity in irrigation ponds within the DMZ, and we used a field quasi-experiment to perform our research. We used fixed sampling by collecting organisms from 3 different spots in each pond 3 times using a collecting net. We identified all organisms that were found and recorded the total number. All organisms were freed after the investigation, and we investigated 6 different irrigation ponds inside the CCC using an easy recording device, probe, and etc. We recorded the different environmental variables of each pond. And this is some of the pictures of our research at the DMZ. And this is our overall investigation result. Using Shannon indices and Simpson indices, we found that pond 1, 3, and 5 had the highest diversity. Finally, using the ANOVA analysis method, we were able to conclude that our data was statistically significant. We looked into the environmental factors of each of the 6 ponds and found that the ponds with higher diversity, which was the 1st, 3rd, and 5th pond, had higher DO and EC values. However, low DO and EC values did not necessarily mean that there were low diversity indices. Also, higher aquatic organism diversity also meant a high diversity of Coleoptera species. Why did we decide to investigate Coleoptera diversity in different ponds? The reason is because they have a significant role in ecosystems. Coleoptera can act as predators, prey, and also decomposers within an ecosystem. To be more specific, Coleoptera's predatory relationship with mosquito and fly larvae can help control the spread of disease, while they can also eliminate bacteria and other potential threats from dead and decaying matter. Diversity of Coleoptera leads to something very important: resilience. Ecological resilience means the ability of an ecosystem to rebuild itself after external stimuli. These stimuli come in various forms: human activity, pollution, invasive species, and etc. In a time of climate change, we can no longer ignore the importance of resilience. Diversity leads to resilience, as even if a specific species within an ecosystem is threatened, then another can still continue its job. Low diversity would mean that a threat to a single species would lead to an entire ecosystem breaking down.
During our research, what really was the greatest challenge was that the consequences of climate change was apparent and clear, even within 4 to 5 months difference. The small irrigation ponds were even smaller than it was originally measured, and the number and the diversity of the insects were decreasing than the originally researched and prior research because of the rapidly changing environments. The resilience that is achieved through the ecological diversity is the key to obtain sustainable environments. If we strive to preserve the biodiversity of the environment, this will open the way to reach global sustainability. There are other protected areas internationally as well, the most similar and the famous one being is the German Green Belt. This area was also transformed into a setting for preservation of the nature after the war. However, one thing that experts note about this area is the width, which is limited to only about 200 meters, which may not be enough for full protection from human interventions. On the other hand, DMZ could still be considered to have the minimum human intervention currently, but even in the area with restrictions, the changes such as decreased biodiversity, total number of living organisms are still significant. Thinking on a larger context, it is more clear than in other areas in the world where there are no restrictions on human activities, the effects are more severe. So we are on our last stand to take action to preserve ecological biodiversity.
There are multiple global efforts to foster biodiversity. One of them is the 2010 Aichi biodiversity target established by the UN Convention of Biological Diversity. Unfortunately, only 6 of the 20 goals were partially met. We would like to contextualize what partially meant in one of the most species-rich habitat on Earth, the Amazon rainforest. One effort to foster diversity in the Amazon is the rehabilitation of formerly fostered lands in the Amazon. Arguably, the greatest pro of this strategy is that nature can be restored from human influence, which is an exciting concept. However, this strategy in itself cannot address the cause of this problem, human influence. We cannot stop at just rehabilitation. We need to address human influence, address preservation.
One biggest challenge in this area is due to the lawmakers' decision. Currently, the laws that bind the Amazon to protect from human activities are very weak. There are no incentives or reasons for farmers or developers to preserve this area. Some of the laws even state that the developers could gain rights about this land just simply by using the land for more than a year. Not only the laws are weak to protect the environment, in 2003, it was researched that only $9.5 million was used to police the world's largest rainforest. Thus, resulted tragically in about 20% of the forests being deforested, when studies have been stating that 40% is the tipping point, that 40% of deforestation is the tipping point of the whole system. However, we still see hope in this area, as according to the WWF, the restoration of entire ecosystem is most possible in regions where parts or at least remnants of the original forest still remain and there are few human population pressures, and therefore actions and policy makings should be taken.
As a learner ourselves, we question what we can do to address preservation of biodiversity. We came up with 2 answers. The first is to acknowledge that sustainability is related to many other crucial factors today, one of which is global health.
The second is to respect and understand goals that are set today to address biodiversity and sustainability. Our interest in biodiversity and sustainability is what defines the future, and our willingness to take action stems from our initial interest in these topics. Thus, we'd like to end this presentation by encouraging all audiences to be aware of the role of biodiversity in establishing global health.
Thank you. These are our references. And we would like to acknowledge the DMZ Research Institute, our advisor, Mr. Seyon Chung, for supporting us with our research, our family members for always giving us endless support, and also the Global Health Conference here at Johns Hopkins University for giving us the opportunity to present here. And finally, our audience for listening carefully to our presentation. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us.